Hello and welcome to what is finally a wonderfully warm episode of UK Boating. Here's a look at what we've got coming up today. We take a visit to Bredon Marina and learn about the history of some ex-BW heritage boats. But first we meet with volunteers from the Herefordshire and Gloucestershire Trust. David, thank you so much for meeting with us today. I guess a good place to start is to find out exactly where we are.
We're at Uber Wharf at the edge of Gloucester, only a couple of minutes outside of the city, which is really our sort of headquarters and focus for the running of the canal.
And what is the canal and what's the canal's history?
It's the Hereford and Gloucester Canal. It goes from here, the River Severn at Gloucester, through Newent, Dimmock, Clebury, right into the very centre of Hereford, so 34 miles.
Lovely.
We've got 10% that we've actually restored, and another 10% we're currently working on.
Fantastic. So what's led to the restoration and the trust that's been created for this?
Over 20 years ago we actually formed the society, which was then only really looking at some of the history and preserving some of the structures. And in '92 that became a charitable trust, which was very much driven to look at the full restoration of the canal with the support of the local authorities and a lot of other bodies.
Fantastic. Isn't it all volunteers, or how's the trust made up?
It's 100% volunteers in the Canal Trust, 1,300 members.
Wow.
So sizable organisation, and as normal about 10% actually do something during the course of the year, actually helping on the ground or behind the scenes.
How is all of this supported then?
And we've got a mix of the membership, the volunteers, donations, etc., small levels of grant. But we're slightly different in that we've, on this site, actually got the Wharf House, which is our own restaurant with rooms, which provides an income stream to actually support the activities of the trust on the site. So the Wharf House actually pays for all the maintenance work and our heritage boat fleet on this site and all the canal restoration in the area.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds a great setup, and I know you've been with it from the beginning of the Wharf House. So shall we hop inside and you can give us a bit more of the history of it all?
Love to.
Thank you. So David, here we are entering the Wharf House. It'd be great if you could now take us literally from the beginning how all of this came about.
No problem at all. We've got this lovely feature in here of the map of the whole canal. We actually started at the Hereford end, that's where the original interest was with the volunteers. And so originally that was looking at the history, etc., of the canal, but that, '92, that started to look at proper serious full restoration of the canal. And we'd moved to Oxnall in Gloucestershire to get a bit of balance of working in both the counties, and got another stretch there restored, including a listed lock. So we're now looking at whole 34 miles from Gloucester down here, right the way along into the centre of Hereford. Puts about 20 million a year back into the local economy and about 400 full-time jobs. So
wonderful.
It's a serious proposition for the local authorities.
Absolutely, it's quite an undertaking as well. It's a huge section. And what about this actual building and the restaurant that we're in now?
Well, part of the agreement was they not only did they give us what ended up as nearly a third of the site and a small sum of money towards the actual restoration of the basin, but they also gave us the shell and core of this brand new building. So this is 5 times the size of the original building that stood on the site, but it was given to us as literally a bare shell. No internal walls, no floors, no ceilings.
And you were free to do with it what you wanted?
It had a planning consent for the actual restaurant with rooms. That was the vision, was to actually create something that helps this site and the canal be sustainable in the long term, giving income as well as a base.
Brilliant. Can we go and have a peek?
Certainly.
Lead the way. So David, here we are in your lovely restaurant, and I know when you took the site over it's just a basic building, so how have we got to all of this?
Well, this was originally the site of the Lock Cottage, which wasn't actually built when the canal first started in the 1790s. It was built when the canal was extended later in the 1840s. So through the legal agreements that got us the canal basin and everything on site, we managed to actually get it to the point where this new structure was built at 5 times the size. So that was given to us as shell core, empty building. And then the volunteers took the whole structure and have done everything you see inside. So complete fit out, including a salvage of a lot of the materials from the old hospital. So all the old doors, architrave, even the floor that's below our feet today is actually from the hospital, having been reclaimed by the volunteers and reused.
Oh, that's a really lovely trait actually. I quite like that connection.
It gives it real character. In fact, the brickwork behind us, the arches, are salvaged from the original lock cottage that stood on this site, just to give a little bit of continuity there back to the original canal days.
Wonderful, I love that. So this is genuinely a sort of everyday working restaurant. Tell us a little bit more about the runnings of the restaurant.
Very much. Obviously the canal trust is volunteers, but the restaurant itself, we've got paid staff here. It generates an income stream which we use to fund things in the area. So it's very good from both headquarters, PR, and it facilitates us looking after the whole of this site. So what we'll see later of the heritage boats on the canal, etc., those are actually all paid for by the Wharf House, the running of the site. And more particularly in the last few weeks, we've actually now acquired the next stretch of canal, and a few weeks ago actually put that into water and restored it, and all of that was actually paid for through the Wharf House. So we'll go outside and speak to Ted, who has actually run that project with both the local and the national volunteers.
Brilliant, looking forward to it. Ted, thanks for meeting with me today. Tell me a little bit about your personal involvement in the projects here.
Right, well, we've just walked along the edge of the canal at Hoover Basin to where it used to end. It was at the time that was being built that I joined the trust, and I've stood here and I've looked to my right there and seen a nice grassy field. I thought, why aren't we doing that bit of canal? Well, obviously it takes a lot of time and effort to get to the point where you can go in and actually build a canal, and there's all the legal land purchase work, etc., that goes along. And this field became available to us when it was bought by a trust of people who live on the estate above us, and they were willing and keen for us to actually get on and do the canal. And 9 months ago we managed to start that, and if we just come along here now, we'll see where we are and what we've done in that time.
So Ted, take me through what you've done in this project and what's left to do.
First instance was clearing all the scrubs. You exchange material out of the way to expose the grassland as it was underneath, to be able to get the machinery in to come along and start excavating. And then we got in Waterways Recovery Group for one of their 2-week canal camps, brought in heavy plant, and with their expert drivers, plant operators, operating the machinery, we transformed that field into what you can see before your eyes today.
And this bit is actually following the original line of the canal?
This bit that we can see here is spot on top of the original line of the canal. For the first half of this length, the old bank, the bank remained from the original canal, which we thought was great. We don't have to do that, but that turned out to be more of a problem for us because of the quality of it than the new bank that we had to construct at this end, where the farmer had obviously flattened it at some time in the past. So
there's been a couple of surprises along the way for you.
Well, there's always surprises, isn't there? You
There
don't know
are
what
always.
you've got until you start doing it.
Tell me a little bit more about the volunteers and the teams that you've had.
The Waterways Recovery Group are all volunteers. We've had a team of about a dozen people who've been working on this on 2 days a week perhaps, or 1 and a bit days a week over the winter. Some of them were the original OVA volunteers. We've got quite a good group of people who actually joined us when the Vineyard Hill project was announced and started. And we've had visiting groups of volunteers from our other Canal Trust sites, from the Lantern site and Oxenhall site, etc.
Lovely, so there's real teamwork going on
Teamwork,
from
yes,
all over the place.
Yeah.
And what have you got left to do now?
So we're now approaching the end of this project, and I guess it's to find out where we're going next. I guess you'll ought to go and speak to Ros, and she'll perhaps tell you what we're going to do next.
Sounds like a good idea, I will do.
Okay.
Thanks, Ted.
Okay, thank you.
Ros, thanks for joining us today. Now, I've been learning a little bit about the volunteers and the projects and things like that, but I know a lot of background work goes on behind it all. Can you take me through partnerships and what you have to do?
Well, my job on the legal and project development team here at the Wharf House is to basically acquire the former canal land. And so we are working with various developers, local authorities, the local communities as well, and obviously the landowners, along various stretches of the canal. And it's about working in partnership with them to deliver not only the canal, but the most profitable and sustainable site alongside the canal as well. So the Wharf House is an example of where we've done that.
So can you tell me a little bit more about exactly what's going on at the moment and any future plans that you've got?
Well, we have a number of future plans, but obviously they're all going on behind the scenes at the moment. Obviously, as we finalise plans and we ensure that our legal interests are protected, those then can be published in the public domain. We have a number of projects though, and it's incredibly exciting time for the Canal Trust at the moment, and that's why we are building our in-house team, where we can do a number of things. The legal searches is the most important one. We also have the GIS system on our computer system as well, so we can do mapping and track the line of the canal. And we have the support of a structural engineer as well, which is very useful in terms of the engineering side of the canal and its development. What is incredibly important now is that we have the support from not only our members, but from the general public, because without the land, we can't deliver sites for volunteers to then restore the canal. So it's incredibly important that we have their support, and that's why we've launched our land fund, which you can find details on our website about, and it's really contributing to that land fund, and the contributions that will be made to that land fund that will allow us to achieve our objective.
Well, it's been absolutely fantastic to hear about all of this, from volunteers to the Wharf House, and it's great to hear that you've got a plan in place for the future and to keep it all going. Thanks very much, Ros.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for part one, but join us again after the break for our marina visit and to come back to the Trust to learn all about their heritage boats.